You're listening to All Marine Radio on the All Warrior Radio Network. What got you out of the Marine Corps? Were you medically discharged? How did you get out of the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I was actually medically retired for PTSD and PBI.
So you're medically. How did you deal with the whole being medically retired thing?
Well, it had gotten to the point where I went from the museum to I was Sergeant Major Kent's driver for 2 years, and then back to Quantico to the Wounded Warrior Regiment. And it was made very clear to me that I was not going back to the infantry. So at that point, they said I could stay in the Marine Corps as long as I wanted to, but I was not going back to the infantry. And that was what I wanted to do.
Right.
So
that was your professional hope. And I get through this stuff. I'll go back to the grunts. I'll be with my people. I'll be with my tribe. I'll be good to go.
Yeah. Yep.
No,
so when I went on the med board, I actually had come to terms with, if I can't go back to the infantry, I think it's time for me to move on to the next chapter of my life.
So so bring us up to date on the mental health stuff. So you're going to see mental health providers, and are you making progress or not making progress relative to your PTSD?
As far as
and your demons.
What time period?
We're talking when you're driving for the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps before your med board.
No, I was going to mental health quite a bit. I was making pretty good progress. Sergeant Major Kent was instrumental in getting me back on my feet, and like I said, he was like a father to me, and he just played a significant role in helping me out, not just me but my family, and that really started to get me to where I needed to be.
So then, when they sat you down and counseled you and said, "Hey, look, you're just not going to get there. You're not going to be able to be full up round," did you accept that at first when you heard that news, or how did that play in Peoria?
I was bummed out because after I re-enlisted the first time, I knew I was going to do at least 20 years in the Marine Corps. That was my goal.
Right.
But I had to take a serious, honest look in the mirror, and I knew, would I really trust myself leading Marines in combat? I had to ask myself that question. And that was tough.
And what was the answer?
I don't think I would trust myself.
Why not?
Just, if God forbid another bad experience like what happened in Fallujah, and
you wouldn't be able to live with it.
Yeah, I'm not fully over it.
Right. Hey, and people have told you you're not gonna get over it, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting over that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people have told me, PTSD goes away when you die.
There you go. So you're getting med boarded, and you have to accept that. And do you make peace with it, Jeremiah?
I do. Like I said, I knew I wasn't going back to the infantry, so I didn't have a choice. I made peace with it. And I started focusing on the next part of my life, the transition. I knew I had a family I had to take care of. And I didn't really have time to sit around and pout about it. So
that's a long, rough road. Are you still drinking as much at that point when you're getting out?
No, not nearly as much. No, I had really slowed down a lot. Thank God.
Would you still be alive if you weren't married? If your wife didn't hang in there with you?
You know, between her, Sergeant Major Kent, Sergeant Major Booth, some of these other folks that have been in my life, I don't think so. I don't know where I'd be.
Talk to me about the advice that you give to other veterans. You're working for the VA now, helping Marines, get the things that they deserve. What advice when you talk about post-combat related mental health and you hear other guys hurting and they're struggling? What advice do you give them?
Well, the first thing I tell these guys and gals is you cannot be afraid to raise your hand and get help. There was a time in the Marine Corps where it was not okay to raise your hand and say you needed help. We're past that in the Marine Corps.
Are you sure? Are you convinced of that?
I'm convinced. I believe that if you need help, the Marine Corps will get you help. I believe that.
Do you believe that you'll suffer professionally because of that?
No. I know plenty of Marines that have PTSD diagnosis that have gotten promoted, they're staff NCOs, they're moving up the ranks, and it hasn't affected them one bit. So that's the number one thing I tell them is you've got to raise your hand. You've got to say something. If you don't say anything, you're going to live with this or try to live with it like I did, and that's not good. When the monkeys make a jailbreak, nothing good happens.
Wait a minute. Say that again?
I had a Vietnam vet tell me one time, Jeremiah, he goes, PTSD, it's like having a cage in your brain, it's like having a cage full of monkeys. The goal is to keep the monkeys in the cage because once them bastards make the jailbreak, all hell breaks loose, so you want to keep them in the cage.
Keep the monkey in the damn cage?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Do you consider it a duty of yours that you have a voice, people recognize you, and that while you have that voice and while you have a platform, you can make a difference in their lives and you feel kind of morally obligated as a leader to go do that? Do you feel that burden as well?
Yeah, and that was, I could never say no.
Right.
Especially when it was Marines asking,
right,
hey, can you come here and speak, or could you come to a warrior night or a mess night or whatever the case may be.
Right.
I never say no because the fact that they're asking me, I mean, it's humbling. And it means the world to me that they even give it,
Shit.
rat's ass.
Yeah, or rat's ass, either one.
But it is definitely time for me to slow down a little bit and spend a little more time with the family.
The first thing you said is don't be afraid to raise your hand. And then we got into this discussion about is there a stigma or not, and that led us to other places. What's the second thing you tell them?
Just, so you got to raise your hand, and then the second thing is if it's medication, it's medication. If it's talk therapy, if it's group therapy, whatever it is that helps you, stick with it. Because a lot of people, they go to counseling 2 or 3 times and they feel better, and then they stop and then they relapse, and it's just a dog chasing its tail. So you got to stick with it until you get to a place where you're in control of it and it's not in control of you. And that's really what I tell people is until you can grab this thing by the horns, you need to stick with it. Because I've seen way too many people quit their meds. Oh, I feel great, man. I'm going to quit taking my meds. No, that's not a good idea. They've gotten a lot better with the whole medication piece too.
How so?
Back in the day. Well, like when I was first diagnosed, I mean, they shoved 13, 15 pills down my throat a day. Now I think I take 3. You know, just enough to, you know, for depression and a few things like that. I mean, I'm not a zombie. I'm alert. I'm in my right mind. It just keeps me even keeled. So I don't think they're over medicating people like they used to, you know, 10 years ago.
Interesting, because that's one of the major complaints you hear from Marines is that, you know, they're more than willing to give me medications, but nobody wants to talk to me, and I need to talk to somebody. I need to deal with this stuff I got in my head. Give some advice to Marines that feel that they're being over-medicated and they don't like it. Like you talked about being a zombie. I mean, I've heard that before, Jeremiah. So, I mean, you have so much experience in this field. What would you tell Marines to do that are feeling like that?
Yeah, if you feel like you're being over-medicated, only you know. You know when enough is enough. And if you got to switch doctors, you got to switch doctors. That's your right. You don't have to stay with the same guy or gal. I switched doctors several times until I found one that I actually liked. And we found a happy medium of medication and therapy. So if you feel like you're being over-medicated, you got to put your foot down and say, hey, doc, this isn't working. You know, I'm a zombie. It's affecting my family. It's affecting my job. And if they don't listen, you seek a new doctor. That's your right as a patient.
But don't quit. Don't quit going.
Don't quit. That's it. Don't quit. Yeah, it's awesome. You know, my son's 9. He's the starting quarterback on the football team now.
Yeah.
So I'm that guy on the sidelines hooping and hollering. I'm not the crazy dad.
No, you're not that guy?
Yeah. I'm not that guy. But I definitely do a little bit of yelling. My daughter, she acts just like me. It's almost scary a little bit. But you're right. Being a father is the greatest gift that you can be given. And I'm just glad that I was given really a second opportunity to be a dad, to be a husband, because I've screwed this thing up many a times. And the fact that they're still here, you know, it speaks a lot. It speaks volumes about my wife. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without her. And you know, we're doing good. You know, things are good. Things are looking up.
Scott, first of all, I've taken up so much of your time, and I want you to know how much I appreciate. Your story is a powerful one, and with a good ending, which makes it a quintessentially Marine story. Because one of the things I hear all the time doing interviews is improvise, adapt, and overcome. You know, it's the motto of NCOs and leaders in the Marine Corps everywhere. And you have certainly gone down a tough road. And I just want to tell you how proud we are of you, and what a great example you are, because you're not a perfect guy, but you're a fighter, and you've hung in there, and you know your family's still intact, and you're the best days of your life are ahead of you as your son gets ready to go to Ohio State playing football. And no, but it is, and it's a good ending, and God bless you. And thank you so much for coming on, and your honesty and your frankness. What an awesome Marine, in all the way around that you are. And thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're listening to All Marine Radio on the All Warrior Radio Network.